feel after. And
I've been crying today, so
have you?
Yeah, but I'm okay now.
Okay.
So you can start the story cutting. You can start cutting now.
Yeah. I will.
Julia Hayden is a storyteller, a body whisperer, a story listener, usually found on Medium writing as Princess Gaia, else on YouTube sharing other people's stories. I invited her today to share her story with us, so please welcome Julia Hayden.
Amen. Oh my God, what did I say? So I'm the second out of 4 children, and my family lived just a normal life, to the outside at least, and behind the scenes, life played hardball with me. I'm a storytelling therapist, and I think this is what I want to start with, because this is what I am now, and this is what I have become to be through the story of my life, to say. So now when I talk to you about it, I want to call it childhood traumata, because I think everybody of the audience will understand the word childhood traumata, because most of us have lived through some kinds of childhood traumata. What happened to me was that I had to live through these traumata by myself, because I didn't have the chance to express them to anybody, and nobody knew that the things were happening to me. So what I did, I developed a kind of a way to get out of these traumata by myself, which I did with out-of-body experiences. So people call it out-of-body experiences, and nowadays some people like to do this with drugs, or like to do this with retreats and with meditation. They call it samadhi or turiya, or some kind of states. But actually, as I did it when I was a little child, I think we can all do this. We can all separate ourselves from our body and do this connection, this out-of-body experience. What happened to me is that this saved my life, because I was in these traumatic situations. I was out of my body. I was sitting in the corner of the room watching the things happening to me. Why I'm telling this? I'm telling this because this is what made me the therapist I am. So I went out of my body and I created a new world. And in this new world, I was talking to Mother Earth. I was talking to animals, to plants, to lakes, to mountains. And all of a sudden, I created myself a new world with new friends, which was very nice for me, because in this way, I found out that there is so much more than what we humans do when we communicate and talk with each other, because there are so many words we speak in between the words we speak. There are so many energies that are in between the energies we are providing with our emotions. And there are so many other sounds in between the silence. And this is what I already learned in my childhood. And this is what made me the therapist I am now. So when I talk to my clients about this moment thing, I try to get them out of this role of suffering, out of this I am how I am because I have lived through all this suffering. And because my clients start to victimize themselves, and they say, I have the pain because my mother hurt me 15 years ago. What I try to realize, to make them understand, is that the moment we are here just now, right now, we are the product, of course, of our history, of everything what has happened to us. And at the same time, we are creating the future with the moment we live. So when we are in the moment, we are our past, and we are our future, and we are our present. So we are everything. Mm-hmm. But when we are too much wallowing in the problems of the past, we are losing the moment. And when we are too much concerned about the future, we are losing the moment. So this is why I try to make my clients understand that everything is okay, everything is good, and the person we are now is the hero of our lives, and we have it in our hands. We own the story. And this means also that when we wake up tomorrow in a new moment, we can be just any new person we want to be. So when I work with my clients, I try to get rid of the idea of the things that have done bad to us, have made us, have brought us this vicious cycle we cannot get out of. So I'm trying to change perspectives with them and understand that behind every challenge, behind every illness, behind every problem, behind any imbalance is a treasure. And this treasure is like a lesson we have to learn, and it's a resource. So behind every fear is courage. Behind every sadness is joy. Behind every failure is a success. And this is actually what I believe. I believe that we have come here as souls, that we've become born in this little body that cannot walk, that cannot talk, that cannot move. And we have come with a lesson, but we forget about the lesson because first we have to understand how this human body works. And when we then understand how we can walk, how we can talk, how we can live this life and how we can survive, then we need to adapt to the life that we have created as human beings. And then we forget the lesson we have to learn as soul. And the challenges that are brought to us, any problem, any illness, any obstacle, actually is just a lesson we have to learn. And this is what I try to make my clients understand. So if you look upon the world from this new perspective, then we can choose. Then we can choose if we look at the light or at the dark side of the things that are happening to us. And then I always say, we can be, we can do, or we can have everything that we can imagine. So this makes me to the storytelling therapist. And I like to create stories with my clients, and I like to let them understand that they all have a magic, that they all have a power, and that this lesson they are here for on this world is mostly a very, very strong, powerful magic lesson. And if we find it, we can pass it on into the world, and we can be the person who allows trust, who allows love, who allows compassion to happen. And then the pain that we have or the illness suddenly makes a lot of sense because this is only a lesson. And I do so by listening to the body, to the structures of the body. And this is, now I come back to my childhood. This is what I learned in my childhood when I started speaking to the words that were unspoken and sensing into the energies. So I started trying to talk to the things that didn't have any voice. So also structures of our body. And by mistake, I broke up my university studies, which was special education. And I wanted to work with mentally and physically disabled children. And so I went into the physiotherapy. And when I then was in the school for physiotherapists, and I started touching bodies, actually, I understood that there was much more behind physical pain, that there was psychosomatics, that there were biopsychosocial chains, and that the butterfly effect, which I heard about these days, which the butterfly effect, which talked about the wing beat of a butterfly that could cause a tornado on the other side of the world, is also within us. So every thought we have, every emotion we have, every tension we have in a muscle can lead to some stress in the world, because of pain, we are not nice to our husband, and then it takes on some kind of chain reactions. So I learned that there was much, much more behind the body, and I started carefully listening and understanding where, in which part of the body, what kind of traumata were located. And I used it then for the therapy. And then I went on. I worked, all of a sudden, I changed my perception in my work, and I started looking at movements of bodies and understood how people presented themselves to the outside by moving in a different pattern. And I used this to train people to stand more upright and in a better position for the so you do this too, yeah. So for the tasks they have in life. So if you are a leader of a team, then of course you must behave as if you are a leader of a team with your posture as well. So I worked suddenly on managers, and when I started working on managers, a CEO of a company asked me if I wanted to work with him on the managers of his company, and I ended up working for the whole company in terms of transforming the company into a new business, which we used to call we read a book which is by Frederick Laloux, and Frederick Laloux did the used the spiral dynamics model. So I also was educated in spiral dynamics, and he used this model to reinvent organizations. And he created this new form of organization. I think we call it teal by the moment because it has the color teal, this spiral dynamics level. And this is a very, very self-organized way of organizing the business. What happened is that it was a very, very, very good attempt to change the organization, but responsibility was still not taken by anyone. So people were afraid of taking the responsibility for the last decision. So this still was to be done by the leader, by the CEO of this organization. And so he sent me to an event where we talked about responsibility. And on this event, I met Louis, and Louis was the Dean of the European School of Governance. And in this European School of Governance, I started working as the community manager for all the academics, to get academics together to think about new ways to govern the Anthropocene. And there I came across the Gaia Hypothesis. This is why I'm telling you all this, because now I come to the Gaia Hypothesis when I started to understand that there actually is a science where scientists talk about Gaia, talk about our planet Earth, which is, according to the Greek mythology, called Gaia. And there, in this science of James Lovelock and Lynn Margulis, they said, according to all the evidence they had, that the planet is a living being that has living beings on itself in order to survive as living being. So we humans are just parts of a system that creates a living planet. And this was so exciting for me that I thought, I can talk to anything. I can talk to plants, to animals, to cells, to muscles, to organs. So I can also talk to Gaia. And I decided Gaia can also talk. And so I wrote the Diary of the Earth, which was my first piece actually in storytelling. I sent it, I created it, I wrote it, I spoke it on my phone, and then I sent it on to my friends as a Christmas present. And it was the Diary of the Earth. And then people asked me to translate it into English, which I did. And all of a sudden, it went into social media without me doing it. So then friends started calling me Princess Gaia, saying, you are channeling Gaia. We call you Princess Gaia now. And actually, this is then what I used for becoming the storyteller I am now. So I went on conferences. I talked about the ocean, from the ocean. I read the letter from the ocean. This was one of my first pieces I read to others. I used this change of perspective. I used it for making people understand the whole chain of production of a consumer good in order to let the people emotionalize with the resource on its way to the product, because then we might change the way we consume and the way we live. So this was a lot. And nowadays I have come to this, I have met these great storytellers and they have met me, and from storytelling and this perspective to talk with the planet and with all the things, to speak with Gaia, made us to the storytellers for Gaia. And as these, we are now in many projects. I am with the Swiss climate movement together in this Humming for Gaia movement. So we are meditating together every 7th of a month at 6 o'clock Berlin time. And there we want to spread loving kindness into the world. Then we have special storytelling events, like now we are storytelling for water, and which also makes a lot of sense and is very enjoyable. And I also do this giving voice thing. I'm listening to stories of everybody in this world who wants to talk to me. I'm telling stories with bodies. I'm the body whisperer in Berlin, so I'm whispering with structures and with traumata. Well, and then I have great friends like you, Jane, who support me. So yeah, I think by now all these things I have done make a lot of sense, and especially also my childhood trauma makes a lot of sense. And I hope that everybody who has lived through a lot of traumata and who is not sure on how did they actually help me, and people who really still suffer from the consequences of these traumata, I hope they all find one day that there's a big treasure behind it and that they can use it for supporting the world in changing and in staying healthy.